Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, public hearing for Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. If everyone could please rise to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. If the secretary could please read the public notice.
Thank you. Notice to be published in the Journal Inquirer Thursday, December 29, 2022, and Thursday, January 5th, 2023, South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that there will be a public hearing on Tuesday, January 10th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall to consider the following. Number one, application 22-46P, Michael's Power Yard, request for a 2-year temporary and conditional permit for a temporary staging area and storage of equipment for Eversource Contractors on approximately 5 acres on property located at 416 John Fitch Boulevard, westerly of Route 5, south side of Pleasant Valley Road, Industrial Zone. Copies of the application are on file in the office of the town clerk and/or planning department and online at www.southwindsorct.gov, planning department pages, planning and zoning commission applications. At this hearing, interested persons may be heard and written comments by the public will be received by mail or email. Persons who may require an accommodation can contact staff Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at 860-644-2511, extension 2329. Bart Pasiconis, Chairman, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you very much. Little housekeeping. Commissioner Viteri is out tonight, so I will seat Commissioner Quarishi for Commissioner Viteri. Our order of business tonight will be first to hear from our applicant, then we'll hear from town staff, then we'll hear from members of the public, first those in favor of the application, and then those against or having questions or concerns, and then we'll hear from commissioners. At this time, if anyone has a cell phone, if they could please put it to vibrate, we would appreciate it. And we will call our first applicant, or our only applicant, application 22-46P, Michael's Power Yard. Is there someone here to represent the applicant? Please step forward, and if you could, at the base of your microphone, there's a button, and you are on. And it does work best if you're 3 to 6 inches away from it. Very good. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Rich Roberts. I'm an attorney at Halloran & Sage in Hartford, here representing Michael's Power Yard in conjunction with a request for a 2-year temporary and conditional permit for the staging area for storage of equipment. Michael's is a contractor for Eversource doing work on the transmission lines. And as you probably know, they're located on about a 5-acre parcel that they lease from the Botticello family at 416 John Fitch Boulevard on the west side of Route 5. And I believe there's a list of the equipment types that won't necessarily always be at the site, but may be there from time to time, and sample pictures of how they arrange the vehicles and the materials. And basically, the employees come to the site each day and get their equipment, get the trucks, get their instructions, and go out, and then come back at the end of the day and store it all at the site. And they try to keep things in a neat and organized manner, as is shown in the pictures. With me tonight is Dana Steele from J.R. Russo, who will explain some of the things that are being proposed that will improve the visibility and the appearance of the site from what it is currently. And also Zach Landmark from Michael's, in case you have operational questions about what it is that they do there. You know, just to kind of take care of the elephant in the room, this was approved for a 2-year period back in 2019. It expired in 2021. For whatever reason, notices weren't heeded. You know, here we are somewhat late and truly apologetic for not having been more responsive. I think, you know, we've only recently been brought on behalf of Michael's, but I would commit that as long as we're, you know, my firm is kept apprised or copied on any correspondence relating to the site, that so long as we're continuing to represent Michael's Power, we will do everything within our power to make sure that the situation that happened last year doesn't happen again, and that, you know, the town's concerns are noted and are being taken seriously by the applicant. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dana Steele. After he does his presentation, you can ask any questions, and if there are ones that you know, would be more appropriate for either me or Zach to answer, we'll do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. For the record, Dana Steele. I'm a professional engineer and principal of J.R. Russo and Associates. Our office is at 1 Shoham Road in East Windsor. We prepared the plans that were submitted with this application for renewal of temporary permit. The first sheet of the plan, which you see to my left, is the key map, which shows the location of the property. It's in the southern end of town, on the east side of John Fitch Boulevard, between Chapel Road and Pleasant Valley, and the access is close, just north of Chapel Road. Sheet 3 of the plan set really gives you the detail of the area that we're talking about, and we've outlined that area in green so that you can, on this plan here, see the area that is where this activity has been taking place and is proposed to continue to take place. It's 4.9 acres in total, this green perimeter here encompasses, and it shows the access here at the bottom of the page. At the top of the page, there is a stormwater management basin and outlet control structure that was previously designed and constructed, and that's to provide protection to the wetlands, which are at the top of the page here. So one of the comments from your staff was that with some of the clearing that has gone on by others in this area, the site's become more visible from Route 5, and in an attempt to screen that, reduce and mitigate that, staff suggested plantings along the property line. So the plan that we've submitted does include evergreen plantings, and they're indicated on the plans. We coordinated with Jeff Folger as far regarding the appropriate species for this area, and so we've been working with your staff to be cooperative, give them what they're looking for, and so if you have any other questions for me about the plan, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, when commissioners are ready, they'll do that. Does that complete your presentation? Or?
Yeah, that concludes the presentation.
Microphone, please.
Subject to any questions that you may have, that concludes the formal affirmative presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'll turn to our town staff, our Director of Planning, Michelle Light.
Thank you. This is a request for 2-year temporary and conditional permit for the storage for temporary staging area and equipment for Eversource Contractor on property located at 416 John Fitch Boulevard in our industrial zone. As mentioned, previously approved this storage in 2019. The applicant failed to request a renewal in December of 2021, resulting in enforcement proceedings. We went through enforcement, and that brings us to today, where we have a new application in front of the commission. This applicant leases approximately 5 acres from the Botticello family, and this is adjacent to the Connecticut Soils operation. It's actually on the easterly side of Route 5, and this is westerly of Connecticut Soils, just to orient you a little bit. Proposed storage area is approximately 200 feet from Route 5 and access through a private drive off of Route 5. Historically had industrial uses many years ago, including manufacturing and storage of bricks. Some of the commissioners may remember when this first came in 2019, there was a lot of debris that required cleanup on the site, a lot of metal, just a whole bunch of old industrial parts. And part of the original approval was a 3-month cleanup period before Michaels actually took on occupancy of the site. So we were quite pleased with all the cleanup that went on. I don't want to discourage them from continuing to clean up as they see more equipment out there. They do have the existing drive into the site for employees that park daily near the trailer. As mentioned, they go out from that location, come back each day, and then vacate the site at night. Since the previous approval was approved, a great deal of vegetation was taken down on the westerly side of the site, and again, that was an area of violation that we've been dealing with under another violation. So it really has opened up the site somewhat from Route 5 when you're driving by. So we did request, and the applicant has provided a row of evergreen trees along that westerly boundary to start to hopefully screen a little bit, and as we see maybe an application come in to the west of that, we can look for some more vegetation screening so that those activities are screened from Route 5 the best that we can do, recognizing it is an industrial area. Storage yards are not permitted unless there's a building, therefore this comes under the temporary and conditional permit. Otherwise, it would be a normal site plan type approval. Our temporary and conditional permit regulation states that these permits may be granted by the commission for a period not to exceed 2 years. Such approval may be given after a public hearing if in the judgment of the commission, the public convenience and welfare will be substantially served and appropriate use of neighboring property will not be substantially or permanently injured and traffic and other hazards will not result from such use. If this application is approved, we would request that the applicant be a little more responsive to renewal requests, and maybe the commission might put a condition of approval that the applicant provide the town with a contact person throughout the course of the permit period. If that person leaves, maybe a new person could be notified. We could be notified. Other than that, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This time we'll turn to our town engineer, Jeff Doolittle.
Thank you. I have no comments.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, I'll turn to members of the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this application, in favor of this application? Hearing and seeing none, is there anyone who would like to speak against or have questions or concerns about this application? Hearing and seeing none, I will turn to commissioners. Commissioner Cavagnaro.
I have no comment. Thank you.
Commissioner LeBlanc.
Sorry, no comment.
Commissioner Foley.
No comment.
Commissioner Wagner.
Yeah, the drawings that we had included a long list of abutters, which were printed in such a small print that I couldn't really understand who they were, but I think one of them is the Connecticut Soils. And how does this site, I mean, I actually toured that site several years ago when they were coming in front of us. I'm trying to understand how this site, does this take over some of their land, or was this a separate site that just happens to abut them?
Yes, sir. The CT Soil.
If you could introduce yourself again, please.
I'm Zach Landmark with Michaels Power. The CT Soil, correct me if I'm wrong, is east of this lot that we're speaking about today. Yeah, and the spoils pile from the old bricks that kind of create our boundary. But separate of that, east side of that.
Do you share drainage with them or anything like that?
No, we don't. Our drainage goes in this swale that was requested to be built on the north side. And there's kind of an elevated berm of old bricks and debris that CT Soil owns, I believe, which pushes the drainage the opposite way.
Okay. One of the issues is the welfare of the community, and I think this project is actually very important to us because the whole work that Eversource is doing in our area has to do with the resilience of the grid, dating all the way back to the famous October snowfall. So I'm very much in favor of continuing this.
Thank you. Commissioner Dexter?
Michelle, I have a question on the duration of the permit. So it was December 2019, right, to do 2021, and now we're in 23. So does this go to 25?
I mean, we are treating it as a new application, so I would say yes.
Okay, so on the
Did I did view the wrong date? Am I going backwards in
so
time?
it's December 10th,
Yeah, I would
2025.
recommend 2 years, yeah.
25, okay. That's it.
Commissioner Carey?
No comments.
Commissioner Quarishi?
No comments.
Okay, I do have a couple questions here. It says any vehicles that are going to be heading south will be going out the Chapel Road exit, correct?
Excuse me, I'm picturing it in my mind. It'd be the John Fitch Boulevard exit here.
And that one would be for going north.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Well, use the microphone, please, because it's not just for me, it's for the audience.
So you use this exit to go north. We cannot use this exit to go south, so we have to turn north and go up and go around the block because it's 4 lanes of travel there if you're familiar with it. And across the 2 northbound lanes, if you have any, vehicle or pickup truck or a trailer of any length, it's too long to sit in the median between the southbound lanes and the northbound lanes. So we go north, go around the block, and then go south.
Okay, I thought I had read somewhere that you would be using the Chapel Road exit.
This is the only exit I'm aware of.
I think originally they may have had Chapel Road usage. It's all the same underlying property owner. Botticello owns all the underlying property, but this operation now may only use the Route 5 entrance. It may have changed since its original.
Okay,
We did used to have a previous, I believe, permit or permission on Chapel Road.
yep. Well,
where-
it's, I think, better this way because less interference with Chapel Road. That's fine, thank you. I had passed this area numerous times before, and there were large dirt piles in the area to the west of where these trees were removed, I believe. I'm believing that that was area that was under your control?
No, sir. That was just west of us. To where they kind of cut the trees out of there.
Yep,
I believe you're referring to right in here.
yeah.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with us or this landowner.
So none of that tree removal
Nope.
was by you?
No, sir.
Okay, how do we protect those trees in the future from your activities?
On this side, on the east side of the trees, we have a barrier we set up with the steel cross arms that you've probably seen in the air for the big power structures, with a kind of a metal wired fence behind it. And on the back side, we were going to put a green snow fence as a visual reminder for people. That's the edge of the property boundary, so I'm not quite certain what they would have planned for over there.
Okay. When I had heard there were trees that were removed, I didn't feel that the 5 or 6 foot trees that you were going to be replacing them with were adequate. But seeing as you didn't remove the trees, I'm not going to hold that against you. long-term vision. How many more years would you anticipate the applicant occupying this site? Is this something, I think originally it was talked about like maybe 5 years or something like that. I'm just wondering
Yeah,
if
that's
that has
probably on
changed.
the long side of my estimate. I mean, as a lineman and an employee that works on the Eversource, I would hope so. We would have that option, but we have a 2-year contract with Eversource
Right. And,
and
As-
nothing guaranteed after that.
okay, and as you probably are aware of now, you have a 2-year temporary and conditional agreement with us
Yes, sir.
that expires after 2 years if it's not renewed in timely fashion. So we're not expecting staff to be chasing you for a year to get you back in this building. It should go a lot smoother than this in the future. So I'll leave it at that. I appreciate your time, thank you. Commissioners, is there any other questions, comments, concerns? Town staff?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Commissioner Wagner?
I had one more question. A lot of the equipment that's in your equipment list is fairly small. Is that going to be stored in a structure, or how is that being stored and managed?
Just as you see it now, we have no plans to put any further structures up. You probably see a picture of some of our trailers that are, they have lockable back ends on them. So anything small or valuable that we would worry about theft or damage from the weather goes in there.
Okay, so it's going to be stored in trailers, basically.
Yeah, tooling, hoists, grips, kind of tools of the trade, absolutely go in there.
All right, thank you, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, anything else? Applicant, you're all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any reason to not close the public hearing now? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:22 PM, and we'll be taking this up a little later tonight on our agenda. Thank you. Okay. Moving along, our next item is to call our regular meeting to order. First item on our meeting is public participation. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on anything that is not on our agenda tonight? Please step forward. Hearing and seeing none. We'll move into new business.
I thought Mr. Steck was here for that purpose. Thank you.
Okay. New business. Our first item under new business is review of the proposed bylaw changes. Did everybody get a copy in with their package? I did. I hope you had a chance to review it. I think everything that we talked about is in this draft. Commissioner Wagner?
I move that we approve the bylaws, the proposed bylaws as amended.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the bylaws as amended. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Hearing and seeing no one. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our next item is CGS referral, Connecticut General Statute Referral 8-24 for Pleasant Valley Road Bridge, road construction, Kennedy Road, and so on and so forth. I'll turn it over to and our town engineer, Jeff Doolittle.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Here to bring a number of projects before you, major public works improvements projects for CGS 824 referral. And I have a few slides if you would care to look behind you, only a few. So the projects just listed real quickly are the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge replacement, reconstruction of Pleasant Valley Road, part of Pleasant Valley Road, most of it, but I'll get into that. Reconstruction of Kennedy Road, reconstruction of most of Dart Hill Road, and sidewalk connections on Ayers Road, Nevers Road, Foster Street, and Buckland Road. I'll just go through each of these quickly. Pleasant Valley Road Bridge, this is an image that shows the work associated with the bridge. The bridge is in brown in the middle over the Podunk River. This bridge was first built in 1929, last reconstructed in about 1988, sorry, is in need of replacement. It has been deemed in fair condition by the Connecticut DOT and eligible for full replacement, and they awarded us a grant to pay for about half of that cost. So this will include replacing the bridge, and what you see here is the bridge, the stream, and then the extents of the project are the yellow part of the road and driveways, which will need to be reconstructed to facilitate the bridge, and the green slopes obviously will be regraded. So in a little bit zoomed in view, the new bridge is going to be a little bit longer and a little bit higher to satisfy the regulatory requirements. It'll be a concrete bridge similar to what was done on Main Street last year, but that requires extending the construction into the road on both sides. So we're hoping that'll be done this summer if we finish with all the permitting and get all the utilities temporarily relocated. The next project is the reconstruction of Pleasant Valley Road. This extends from about Pepin Place to Clark Street. This was funded through the 2001 bond referendum. So the plan is to do this in 2 phases at the moment. It may be bid as one, but we're working that out. So there's really 2 distinct sections. There's a section west of Route 30, Ellington Road, to Pepin Place, and we'd like to do that when we do the bridge, since it'll be most convenient to do it at the same time. And then there's a section to the east of Long Hill Road to Clark Street that will also be done, if not at the same time, in quick succession after the first part. This is a full-depth reconstruction, and along with this and the bridge, we're proposing sidewalks on one side of the road. I can go back to the bridge real quick. The hatched yellow section on the top of the image, the north side of the bridge, is the proposed sidewalk across the bridge. So this sidewalk continues on the north side of Pleasant Valley Road from Veterans Memorial Park to Pepin Place, connects to Hilton Drive. Then it crosses over to the south side of the road and is on the south side of the road to the east of Long Hill, and then has to cross back over to the north. That's based on available right-of-way. We did look at putting sidewalks on both sides of the road, and there just is not enough right-of-way to do that. And in addition, we're expanding the bridge for this sidewalk. If we had it on the other side as well, it would mean further expanding the bridge, which would have more environmental impacts, more utility impacts, and just more costs. So for all those reasons, we're proposing sidewalks along one side of the bridge and Pleasant Valley Road. The next one is the reconstruction of Kennedy Road. If you remember, there was a large distribution facility approved last year along Kennedy Road. We applied for it and received a grant from the state of Connecticut to fund about 80% of the cost of reconstruction of Kennedy Road. And as soon as that gets processed, which is being processed by the Connecticut DOT, we can finish that design and work on reconstructing Kennedy Road. We're going to try and do that in conjunction with the developer, but we don't know what their schedule is at this time. So it may be off a little bit from their schedule, but we can get it done, and it'll benefit them, it'll benefit the other businesses along Kennedy Road. And as part of this, the developer that got the distribution facility approved is responsible for the new cul-de-sac at the end of Kennedy Road. So we would just do basically the existing part of Kennedy Road. The next project is a reconstruction of Dart Hill Road. This is also funded from a grant from the Connecticut Department of Transportation. So this runs from Niederhofer Road to the Vernon Town Line. Again, full depth reconstruction, improving the drainage, improving the grades. As you know, there's a somewhat steep hill at both ends of Dart Hill Road, but it's pretty flat in the middle. So we'd be making sure that we have adequate pitch so the water drains, and we would propose sidewalks on the north side of Dart Hill Road for this length. There are sidewalks between Perrin Place and Lawrence Road, but otherwise there's no other sidewalks. So we would be adding those as part of this project as well. And the last project is a series of sidewalk connections, again, funded by a grant from the Connecticut DOT. These complete existing sidewalks on Ayers Road, so that'd be from the high school driveway to Graham Road, on Nevers Road, north of Lake and north of Miller, on Foster Street from Bayberry to just south of Orchard Hill Drive, and 2 sections on the east side of Buckland Road, just south of Oakland Road, and just north of Deming Street in front of the assisted living facility. And this is also in design. Those are the projects that we have proposed for the 824 referral to this commission.
Okay, thank you very much. Does our Director of Planning have anything? Okay, thank you. Commissioners, what is your pleasure? Commissioner LeBlanc.
I gotta ask, I live on Dart Hill Road, so, you know, this obviously affects me, so it's selfish, but, we're talking sidewalks on the north side of the road, and that'll be in front of my house, but we're assuming it's, 5-foot sidewalks, right? Not 8-foot as they are in commercial areas.
No, I think they're either 4 or 5 foot sidewalks. I think there may be 4-foot sidewalks along Dart Hill Road.
All right.
Okay. So Commissioner Cavagnero?
Thank you. I will make a quick comment first, and then I'll ask a question. I think all these projects are things that we obviously need in our community for the longest times. Of course, the connectivity map for sidewalks, I think. It's been long overdue. Same with a lot of the road renovations. I remember driving on Pleasant Valley Road, and I either have a cup in the cup holder, driving the car, and water spilling everywhere. So I can completely understand with that. I think the only question that I do have is for each of these projects, do we have an ETA on them at the moment? Or, you know, if we vote on them tonight and we approve this referral, what's the timeline?
So they could all be started this year. So Pleasant Valley Road is still finishing up the permitting process. Pleasant Valley Road Bridge is still finishing up the permitted project. We'd like to start those this summer unless they get delayed by permitting or utility relocations. They all involve utility relocations. Kennedy Road maybe started this year. Again, we're trying to coordinate that with the developer. So it could extend to next year if the developer thinks, you know, that would work better with their schedule. Dart Hill Road, we would like to get potentially started that year. That this is being reviewed preliminarily by the Connecticut Department of Transportation. It needs to be reviewed a couple more times before we can proceed. That may take us into next year, but we'll move that along as soon as we can. And the sidewalk connections are in their initial review. We're hoping to get those reviewed so we can start those this year. So they all could be started this year. Some of them may likely extend into next year.
Okay, thank you. And one last question, I just thought of it while you were explaining that. If I recall, 2 years ago, we had a referendum, and one of the questions we had was on road repairs, and I think they focused on Pleasant Valley Road. Is this separate from that, or how does this tie in?
This is that section of, or that part of Pleasant Valley Road, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Commissioner Wagner?
Yeah, thank you. So the sidewalk, the pedestrian travel on Pleasant Valley Road will have a crossing?
Yes, there is a crossing right now in front of Veterans Memorial Park. We're going to keep that crossing. And then there'll be at least one more crossing to the east of Long Hill.
So are we doing any special signaling there to make that safer?
We have not determined that yet. So we're still in the design process. At this point, we haven't really looked in depth at like rapid flash beacons, but we could, and we could also do those in the future at either of these locations.
And then, would you go over the sidewalks on Sullivan Avenue? Like, are there still going to be gaps in the sidewalk on Sullivan Avenue, or what?
We're not proposing sidewalks on Sullivan Avenue at this time. Let me go to the sidewalk section. We're talking about Buckland Road,
Buckland Road, okay, yeah.
filling in the section from Oakland Road to the credit union on the east side, and then in front of the assisted living facility. So the sidewalks will be continuous on both sides from Oakland Road to Deming Street, and then they're on the west side from Deming Street to the Manchester, actually to Pleasant Valley Road. And there are gaps on the east side. The plan is those will be filled in as other developments are done on the east side, south of Deming Street.
So if you go from the intersection here toward Manchester, will there be sidewalks everywhere, or?
There'll be sidewalks everywhere to Deming Street, and then on the west side from Deming Street to Manchester. They will not be continuous on the east side until that side gets fully developed.
Okay. And what's the northerly stretch there?
So that's Miller Road. There's a gap in the sidewalks from Lake Street to just south of Hayes. And there's a gap in the sidewalks from Miller Road to almost Eagle Run, not quite. And if we fill in those two gaps, there'd be sidewalks all along Nevers Road.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Chairman,
Commissioner
you did receive a letter. I don't know if you typically take letters on 8-24 referrals or not.
Yep. Yeah, if the secretary could read that into the record.
Okay. So this is a letter from Mr. Marco Maniscalco, who's the town manager.
That's not the letter.
Oh, 2 letters. Yeah.
Give me one you want me to read. Okay, so this is from our town planner, Michelle Lipe. And actually, it's from Mr. Robert Dickinson. And I don't know if Mr. Seck is here to speak on that, but dear South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission members, in consideration of the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure to be incorporated as part of South Windsor's complete street policy for road reconstruction, listed under item 2 of new business, copied below, I ask that consideration be given to add 8 or 10 foot paved multi-use side paths rather than just 5 foot sidewalks. There have been many pedestrian and bicycle deaths and serious injuries from crashes this past year in Connecticut. Many of them have been when pedestrian and bicycles were walking or riding at the edge of roads on the shoulder. A painted white line marking the shoulder offers no protection to speeding or distracted drivers. Only having a curb between them offers reasonable protection. A consideration might be to place curbing within 6 inches of lane width marker to provide more room for a paved wide side path. This would also provide traffic calming with curb close to the lane. Sincerely, Robert Dickinson, 400 Seaway Drive, Bloomfield, Connecticut. And he was a South Windsor resident for 57 years, though he now resides in Bloomfield. And I don't know, Mr. Seck, you're here from that same committee. Did you want to comment or no? Go ahead and introduce yourself completely.
Ken Seck, 285 Griffin Road, South Windsor. I'm just here to sort of go over what Bob had presented to you. And my biggest complaint, or something I'm curious about, is the choice of 4 to 5 foot sidewalks. If there's a busy road, I find that it's very difficult when the speed limit is 45 miles, 40 or 50 miles an hour to ride along a bicycle safely. I would much rather ride on a sidewalk, but I find that a 4 foot sidewalk is very difficult to ride on, especially if you've got pedestrians or other bikers going in the other direction. And I don't know whether it's a question of monetary use, that the additional width of the sidewalk would just be much more expensive, or whether that we can't get permission to extend onto possible abutter's property or what. And I would be curious to know about that as far as the reasoning why we choose the 4 or 5. I hope that we can expand it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if Mr. Doolittle would like to comment on that.
Yes, I'd be glad to. So the reason for 4 or 5 foot sidewalks, as you know, over the last few years, we've gone to 5 foot sidewalks in commercial areas and areas of high traffic, such as around schools. So the sidewalks on Ayers Road would be 5 feet wide. The sidewalks on Buckland Road, I believe, are 5 feet wide. Pleasant Valley Road, I think, is 4 foot wide because there's not enough room even for 4 foot wide sidewalks. So we're already going onto people's properties with 4 foot wide sidewalks. 5 feet wide sidewalks would just compound that. And that's true in many cases. So we've gone to 5 foot sidewalks where we can. We have a lot of 4 foot sidewalks in town. With the Sidewalk Connection project, we're matching the width of the sidewalks where they are, as they are, so we can complete the sidewalk connections, because we feel it's important to complete sidewalks where we have them. We don't have any wider paths in town along roadsides, and it's mainly a function of utility location and the available room to us to do that. I mean, it'd be nice if we had wider sidewalks along Buckland Road, which is probably one of our highest speed roads. There just isn't the right-of-way for that, unfortunately.
Thank you. So before I yield, just recognize that the purpose of this is for us to just tell the town council whether we are in favor of or not going forward with these projects, and it's not our role here to actually influence the design. However, I'm sure your comments will be forwarded to members of the council, and of course you've heard our town engineer speak on that, so thank you very much for your comment. I'm done unless you'd like to have a motion.
Okay. Commissioner LeBlanc?
Yeah, it's going to add one thing. It's just a concern of mine. It's not necessarily my street, but others that I do drive on. And the town has done a good job taking some of these old roads and making something better out of them. Avery Street, I think, is a classic example. That was basically an old farm road that was paved over years ago, and it, of course, the improvements on it are justified. And but one of the outcomes of having that is that the speed on that road has become a lot greater. These road improvements, Sand Hill Road's another one that you see a greater amount of traffic. I should say not an increase in traffic, but an increase in speeding vehicles on it. And I'd like to have some way of, or is there a way to mitigate the amount of speed that you're getting on residential roads? Kelly Road's another one. I've seen these bands that are put across the road that look like a sidewalk or a crosswalk. Sand Hill has it, Kelly Road has it, but they're basically meaningless. But I feel that the road improvements are detrimental in the long term for the amount of speeding that's happening through town. There's very little police-wise that's being done regarding that.
So would you like me to respond?
Well, something, whether it's speed bumps or something, or it just seems that if there's a posted speed limit, I'll use Miller Road for an example, that's 25. Does anybody really drive 25 on Miller Road? I don't think I even do, but I'm getting speeds of at least 40 miles an hour because I'll tail people and when I leave the house just to see what the speed is on my road, and it's 45 typically on Dart Hill as it stands today.
Yep.
So if you're going to make improvements on it, and that too is an old paved farm road, you're going to see 50 miles an hour between the Avery Street and the top of Dart Hill and Niederwerfer. It's going to happen.
So the speeds have crept up over the last few years, I agree with you. When we design a road, the standard is to design it for the current speeds on the road. And unfortunately, as they creep up, the design standards in terms of the geometry road tend to creep up. We're trying to hold that back to either the posted speed or what they say the 85th percentile speed, which is where 85% of the cars are at or below that speed or less. We're definitely going to do that on Pleasant Valley Road. We don't want to design that road to be that much faster. So we're trying to hold the design so we're not encouraging speeding geometrically. We are smoothing out the roads, we're taking out the bumps, we're smoothing some of the curves, vertical and horizontal. So that does encourage people to drive a little faster. So then you look at speed control measures, and we've looked at a number of these. So we tried some things on Avery Street, I'm sorry, not on Avery Street. We tried some things on Kelly Road, as you mentioned, on Sand Hill Road, putting some rumble strips, if you will, or some textured pavement across the road. We don't really call them rumble strips, to try and slow people down. And they have a minimal effect on speeds. I agree with that. We've talked at length about speed humps. And every time we talk about them, we get pushback from the immediate neighborhood in that they feel it's going to increase noise, it's going to be a detriment to their living on that road. So we have not put speed humps on any road, because you'd have to put a lot of speed humps on a road to really slow people down. And we've looked at it at length on Kelly Road. We looked at it even on Avery Street. And the consensus at the time from the neighborhood was they didn't want them. So we haven't gone that far. So we're left to control speeds through keeping the roads as narrow as possible, keeping the design speeds down, and then putting up things like the radar speed signs to make sure people are aware of their speeds when they're driving, and then police enforcement.
All right, no, thank you for explanation. On a positive note, definitely good road improvements, and certainly sidewalks will certainly help with pedestrians on a lot of these roads. It needs it, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wagner.
I move that we send to the town council a positive recommendation regarding CGS referral 8-24 for Pleasant Valley Road Bridge and road reconstruction, Kennedy Road reconstruction, and sidewalk reconstruction for Dart Hill Road, Ayers Road, Nevers Road, Foster Street, and Buckland Road.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for a favorable review. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is application 22-46P, Michael's Power Yard. Michelle, anything else? Or you're all good? Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8.
I'm going to make a motion. Is that
Sure.
okay? That we approve application 22-46P, Michael's T&C Equipment Storage. This is a temporary and conditional permit that will expire on January 10th, 2025, and must be renewed at that time if the use is to continue. There are also a couple of standard conditional approvals. There is one for a $5,000 landscape bond, which is required to ensure the survival of the proposed landscaping. And then we did add one, Michelle, for the applicant to supply a contact person with contact information if any renewal or approval condition questions come up.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, our next item is discussion and review of our proposed draft regulations, and I'll turn to our Director of Planning, Michelle Wagner.
Okay, so tonight's the night that you're going to get the results of the hard work of our 2 residential subcommittees. So I have 3 different things I want to give you, and I just want to explain what I'm giving you, and then we'll have plenty of time for people to take a look at it and discuss it. But the first document I'm going to give you is basically the zoning regulations in order of the changes redlined of what we're making. So it does follow a sequence. There's a chart that goes along with it that identifies the section that's being modified and a little blurb of what's being modified, so that someone looking at this document could kind of match it up a little bit. Again, there's a lot of little changes that were made. I try to capture the bulk of the important ones in this chart here, so they go together. Similarly to that, for our subdivision regulations, I have another chart that goes with changes to the subdivision regulations. So those will be documents that we'll put up on file on the website tomorrow morning. They've been filed in the town clerk's office. They've sent to CROG. So we're basically in the 35-day review period that we have to have before we can hold the public hearing. The third document I'm going to give you is basically the moratorium that we currently have in place. This is a document that extends it for 4 months, and that we're sending off to CROG in the event we get into our public hearings and we don't feel like we're going to make our time frame. We'll have that as a backup document that has gone through the review process and can get put on for a public hearing item. Again, kind of to review the schedule, the target dates are the 2 February meetings. The February 14th and 28th would be public hearings specifically to gather comment on the residential regulations for the public. They could be able to send them in writing, attend the meeting. We'll have information on our website how people can offer comments. So that's kind of the timetable we're on. So I thought I would give you the piles as you leave rather than give them to you all right up there right now. I don't know if anybody on the committees wants to speak specifically. I can make some general comments about what each of the committees did, or if members of the committee wanted to talk to them. It really is, I don't really want to get into the weeds of it because I think people probably want to take it home and digest it, but I'll follow your direction.
Well, I'll open it up to see if there's anyone who wants to speak. Commissioner Cavagnaro?
Thank you very much. I have some notes on my phone, and I apologize I couldn't write it out. I crushed my finger this morning, so I have notes on my phone on each of the regulations. But going over the documents that were sent out, we had duplex, inclusionary zoning, multifamily residential, and assisted living. The ones I really want to touch on, inclusionary zoning. This is something that we've all wanted for a while. It falls in accordance with our affordable housing plan. We are, through this, encouraging below market rate dwelling units. For subdivision affordability, we have it down at 12%. Multifamily affordability, we have it down at 15%. Noting in here, however, is that these affordable units will not be clustered. So meaning you can't just put all the affordable units in just one area and sort of segregate a community. We're sprawling them out. We're not like mixing them into like one area. They're not going to be clustered, which is good as well. But we're also adding new terms for definitions for affordable housing. I'm not sure the exact terms, somewhere in the regulations. But for multifamily residential, one of the big things that I've been pushing for is having the unit mix table updated. So that includes the one-bedroom units in the studio apartments. So within our multifamily residential regulations, there is a unit mix table, and there's like a percentage of how many bedrooms per each development. So one bedroom is seeing, an increase up to 50%, and notably the 3-bedroom units are only allowed in single-family or duplex dwellings. And this is key as well, because I know within our multifamily subcommittee, we talked about that we wanted smaller units, more options for people to choose from. So that's always key as well. But also within these regulations, we have more accessible parking for multifamily developments. We have a 15% affordability, which I mentioned above, and we are lowering the minimum lot area size, I think down to 4 acres, if I'm correct. 5. And we are adding the maximum of 15 acres, which I think was prior the minimum, if I'm correct. Awesome. And then assisted living, we are lowering the minimum land area. I think, again, is it 15 to 4 or is it 15 to 5?
The assisted housing, you talking about?
The last document there, the assisted living.
Yeah, we're lowering it, yeah.
Awesome. Within that, we're also revising the building heights. There's, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that may be a typo, but we're increasing the maximum impervious coverage from 50 to 60%.
Yeah, so the assisted housing would be like your Metro Realty projects that you have on Oakland Road. There'll be an opportunity to have them in commercial zones, and if they're proposed in a commercial zone, the coverage ratio is a higher ratio than a residential zone.
Awesome. And then last but not least, the parking spaces per units were also revised. Those are the notes that I have on all the documents I was able to draft up. And again, everything I said during what I just said is something that I'm in favor of. It's something that we've worked towards for a while, as well with the duplex regulations, which I also forgot to mention. Those are being revised because also within our affordable housing plan, we want to, work towards missing middle housing, and updating our duplex regulations helps us achieve that. I'm definitely in favor of, our regulations that we've worked towards. I will say I've had a lot of fun working with our chairman and Commissioner Viteri and with Michelle Leib as well, and our multifamily subcommittee. It's been a blast the past 8 to 10 months. I've enjoyed it, and it's sort of why I want to get involved with planning and zoning. So that's all I have to say on our regulations.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Steve, did you have any comments, or?
Unfortunately, I don't have a detailed rundown, but I will say that the commission on, basically, we're talking about the subdivision of subdivision regulations. And one of the things that comes up when you talk about a subdivision, a housing subdivision, or mainly single-family houses, is the goal of developing affordable housing in connection with these communities. And as the size and prices of the buildings that a developer wants to build increase, it becomes more and more difficult to envision building a house that's truly affordable for the 80% of the median income. So then the discussion comes up of, well, maybe we provide them a way of a fee in lieu. And the fee in lieu that we've seen in several other neighboring and Connecticut communities is very confusing. And I think we've ended up with a very simple formula that ties the fee in lieu to the zone. So if it's an A40 zone, there's a certain fee in lieu calculation that's appropriate to that zone, which is related to the cost of the kind of housing that you can build in that zone, rather than waiting to see what someone actually builds and tying the fee in lieu to that. It's a very simple formula. You come in with a subdivision proposal. You can either build the affordable housing and tie that land to be that particular parcel to be affordable for 40 years, or you can pay the fee in lieu. And I think experience across the state has been that people tend to want to use the fee in lieu. So it's really important that that be fair and reflects the cost of the kind of buildings that would be built in that zone. So I'm just delighted with where we've ended up in that area, and I hope when we all get to see this, you'll be equally delighted. There were a couple of other changes I think that Bart maybe is better capable of talking about.
I'm not going to beat it to death. Michelle, when we send it off to CROG, what exactly are we sending? Are we sending the verbatim text or just the highlighted changes?
So we send them the text with the changes. So in other words, they're seeing the changes that we're making in our regulations. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And all that will be available in the town clerk's office and planning and zoning, correct?
Correct, and it will be online, where we have our pending applications currently online under both the planning department page and the planning and zoning page. There will be linked to these sponsored amendments, and these documents will be available for anybody to go out and again, they're red line documents, so if it's in red, it's new
Okay.
or changing something.
And all that is what you're planning on handing us when,
Correct. As you leave tonight, you will get copies of all this red line. So this basically is all the residential work around the residential moratorium.
okay. And I did receive it, was it earlier today that you
Yeah,
sent?
I sent you some
And
information.
I did review it. There's a lot of pages. I didn't print it all out. But I do encourage every commissioner to take a look at it.
Sure, and collect your typos and things like that, and we'll,
Yeah.
we'll get them cleaned up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
I just think one area that we addressed was also the, what's the housing behind another house called again?
Interior lots?
Interior, yeah. That's an area where we've been unhappy with some of the proposals that conform to our regulations, but we felt like they didn't really provide enough isolation from the existing housing. So if someone comes in and builds a house in your backyard or adjacent to your backyard, we wanted to make sure that that's a more acceptable use. So we made it a little more difficult to build those by changing the requirements and also requiring better buffering between the unit in back to the one in front. Did I get that pretty close?
Yes, you did.
okay, so,
I think Caroline has,
oh, Commissioner Carey.
So I just wanted to thank Michelle. You know, you did so much work, especially on trying to figure out how to do the affordable housing and looking at across the state at what all the different cities and towns were doing. I was just totally amazed, so thank you very much for all that you did.
Yeah,
it was an
Can't-
education for all of us, for sure, and will be.
I can't say enough about how much effort Michelle put into all this. Like Commissioner Carey said, reviewing, finding out the information, talking with other towns about how it works, so that she can understand, you know, what their plans were and get a feeling of which ones are good, understandable plans. Because in all honesty, if Michelle looks at it and somebody can't explain it to her, or it's just not clear and concise, it's going to be a difficult plan. So Michelle's done a pretty good job at bringing some options forward to us, and I do sincerely appreciate all her efforts.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot. I wouldn't recommend 2 moratoriums simultaneously in the future, but we got through it, so.
Yeah, it really was a crunch time, and you really did come through it. Thank you very much. So at this time, we're looking to do a recommendation to forward this to CROG, or has that?
It's been done
Okay,
on your behalf.
okay, thank you. So, again, take a look at the information. We can always have a session or discussion on it in the future. There's going to be public hearings, and like Michelle said, February, 2 meetings in February. There'll be a lot of public comment, and, you know, we'll see how it goes. So, anything else in regards to that?
No?
Did we hear about the warehouse?
We're a little bit further down the road, right? Another
So
month?
there's another warehouse meeting next week, and we should be very close to having a final draft ready by the end of the month.
Okay. All right. So that completes our new business. No, I don't see any bonds. We do have one set of minutes. Did anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, we'll accept these by consensus. Oh, Steve has a few? Okay.
I do have a few typographical. I apologize for not forwarding them, but if I can find them here. We ought to have a shredder right next to our seats. I mean, there's I think the one substantive change I would like to see is on page 2, the very top 2 lines, items C as in Charlie. Set PZC tentative meeting dates, set tentative dates targeting on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, beginning in April 2023. I would like to add that, since I think that's our plan.
Third Tuesday. So just stating, starting
Yeah, just add the phrase beginning in April 2023. I think that's what our plan is, right?
With, that works with our draft schedule? Yeah, okay. Okay.
And then on page 4, at the end of the second paragraph, the word Veterans Memorial, I think we're talking about Veterans Memorial Park. The other changes are truly typographical, which,
Okay. So maybe could you give that copy to Caitlin, just,
Yep.
or?
yeah.
So, would the commission agree to accept these by consensus with the changes by Commissioner Wagner? Agreed? Okay, great. Michelle, do we have any old business?
No, the only, no old business, no. I do have an other business, just, I sent you out some questionnaires for the Plan of Conservation Development for review. One set was questionnaires that would be given to the town staff, and then one was a questionnaire that would go to the board and commission. And I just didn't know if anybody had any comment on that or any questions on that. They came from our consultants, and assuming we're good with it, they would be getting those out and start that process with their different boards and commissions.
Has anybody had time to review those yet? Michelle, when do you need that input back by?
Well, as soon as we get it back, the sooner they can get it out. So maybe if we could say by the end of the week, could we do that? And if anybody wants a hard copy, I can get you a hard copy. I send it electronically, but we can certainly get you a hard copy if you want it.
Okay.
And I had one item.
Commissioner Wagner?
I'm not sure, well, I know that everyone who was on the commission at the time we did this, we asked the Energy Committee to make recommendations on how to respond or adjust our regulations in regard to Connecticut Public Act 2129, which was an energy act. The Energy Committee came back with a letter dated May 12, 2022, and included in that were pretty much a statement that there wasn't a lot we could do with the zoning, but that the town council could provide some incentives to make it more desirable to make various energy changes. That is coming up on the Tuesday, January 17, 2020, the meeting, the next town council meeting, which is not on Tuesday because of Martin Luther King Day. I will not be able to attend because of the Water Pollution Control Authority, but just so you know, our subject is coming up at that meeting.
I see March there. Is that?
That was a mistake.
Typo on you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Chairman, I did have one other thing I just wanted to bring up everybody's attention. You should have received in your packet some training opportunities that are coming up. This is actually virtual from home, so it is a Saturday. That's the downside. But if anybody is interested, again, we do have a retraining requirement now that we have to keep in mind. We will bring forward any opportunities as they come up to you to take advantage of. I know CROG and some other organizations are going to try to put some available to folks. But if you're interested, let us know. We'll get you signed up for this.
Do we have a spreadsheet on who has attended any training
We
so
are
far?
setting that up because, again, it's just now a law that we have to do, and we have to report by April of 2024. That would be the first commitment of demonstration of your training compliance.
And our training obligation is, I believe, 4 hours over 2 years, correct?
4 hours, 1 hour has to be affordable housing, and maybe another hour may be dedicated another way. I can't process or legal process or something like that. So.
Okay.
But
And-
again, I think there'll be some different virtual opportunities and maybe some in-person ones we'll make available to you.
And just in reading this, I believe they said a half hour of this goes towards your affordable housing training.
Yeah.
So I don't want the commissioners thinking if you just attend this one training, your obligation is over. It is a 4-hour commitment over 2 years, and 1 year is just about gone, it'll be gone in April, right?
Yeah, and I think with the training we did last fall with our town attorney, we need to count that, so we'll be putting that on our training schedule.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it'd be interested to see, you know,
Yeah,
where it
we'll be
fits
putting
in,
that
but-
together. We have a format that we're working
Yeah,
on.
and I know each commissioner would just be interested in probably seeing how they're doing and what they're, you
Yeah,
know, what
yeah.
they need to do moving forward. Okay.
So
Commissioner Wagner?
I do have one question. Not every part of this is of interest to me, or particularly, I think of our role. Can we tune in and tune out and be recorded for when we're there and when we're not, or how handling that?
I don't believe there's going to be anybody checking, you know, your audio to make sure you're remaining on site. I think it's, you know, it's your discretion to do that. If, you know, if you only have 2 hours to give to it, I think 2 hours is worth it. If, you know, there's 2 hours worth of meetings there you want to go to.
All right, thank you.
I'm not going to discourage you from doing that. And we'll record whatever time you went on.
So just time-wise, there's a date for register by February 15th to get your printed course material in a timely fashion. So anybody who would like to participate, I did already put it in my calendar, so I will be participating. But I always find, you know, it's good to have your printed information first rather than getting it like the day that you show up, but just something to think about. Any other questions, comments?
Sorry. Do we go register ourselves, or will you register us?
If you let Caitlin know, she'll register, because we'll put one purchase order for all the people that go.
Okay, you can
Yeah.
add my name to that.
Okay.
I think zoning board of appeals members are attending as well, so we should have a.
And
Good.
please don't just say you're gonna attend. We paid a $45 registration through the town, and then you don't show. So, I would probably say, get your registrations in before Valentine's Day, and, you know, stick to any commitments that you make. Okay. I think that concludes old business. That was correspondence. I think all we have left, unless you have anything else, Michelle, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make a motion without we adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody.